Good morning, everyone. I just want to check my sound and make sure everything's working. So give me some feedback. Do you all hear me? Okay. Thank you for the chat. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, thank you so much for the feedback. I appreciate that. I haven't been on Zoom in my classroom in a long time. At home, I know it's working, but at school, you just never know. Yeah. All right. Good morning, everybody. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for being patient. I just want to make sure I give it another minute or two for everybody to get in. Yay, okay. Okay. Good morning, good morning. Yay, I see some familiar names. That's wonderful. People just keep coming in. This is great. And thank you for, there was a link update. So if you were in before and had to go back in, thank you for adjusting. Looks like it's working great. If you all want to get us rolling this morning, how about we, you can put in the chat grade level you support or teach or position you are currently in the county. We would love to see who is with us this morning. That would be a great way to start us off. I'm trying to decide which screen I want you guys on. Do I want you on the little one or the, I like the look over here. Thank you for putting your information in the chat. If you didn't hear, we're just posting our position that we are in the county and or grade level of youth support. So we can get an idea of who's with us. Thank you. So I did want to mention too, before we get started, that there's 2 sessions. Of course, you only need to stay for one of them, but this first session goes to 10:15 and then there's a break. And then session 2 begins. And so in that, you can go to a different learning opportunity if you would like. So there will be 2 sessions. This is a technically 45-minute session. So I am going to go ahead and get started. Some people might trickle in as we are talking, but I want to honor the time and make sure we get everything covered that is meant to be covered this morning. Thank you. All right. So I'm a little rusty with Zoom. Let me know if this is sharing. You got that? I think I'm back up. There is sound. I'm getting feedback that there is sound, so you may need to adjust, your speaker. All right, can we see that, everybody? Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate you. Well, welcome, you guys. We're here today for our PLCamp of 2022. I appreciate you coming on this morning to develop yourself and your learning. Today, we're diving into the standards for mathematical practice. So we'll be discussing the standards and how to apply the standards in our classrooms. And I'm your facilitator, Justine Dix, and I will tell you a little bit about myself after I go for some Zoom norms. Remember these? Good old Zoom teaching. So we have cameras on is a great opportunity for us to see you and engage with you. And then everybody's following the rules already. Everybody's muted. You all are used to that. The chat feature is available, and we will be using that in our learning today. We will experiment with new ideas, take responsibility for our learning. We're going to listen for the using the intent to learn, taking risks, and of course, being digitally responsible. So making sure that we're being actively participating in today's session. And again, we'll have a break at 10:15. So at 10:15, session 1 ends and you get a break. And then if you want to participate in session 2 in another learning opportunity, you can jump on another experience for today. All right, y'all, I'm going to jump right into it. Thanks for those who put in the chat a little bit about their self, their position in the county, what grade levels they support. A little bit about me, just so you know. Number one thing here is I'm a wife and I'm a mother of 2. So my son is almost 3. He'll be 3 in 2 months. And my daughter's almost 1. She'll be 1 in less than a month. So little ones at home. And that was us a couple weekends back, doing the whole pumpkin patch thing. So we were at the farm having a good time. And for professional, I have been in the county for 10 years. This is my 10th year currently right now. Experience in the classroom has been K, 1, 2, 3. Early childhood has obviously been my realm. I love early childhood education. I'm currently a 1st grade teacher. So yeah, right now I'm in 1st grade. And right now I'm teaching at Snowden Farm Elementary School in Clarksburg. I've been here since the school opened. So I believe this is embarrassing, but I think it's 4 years. But those years we had some weird years going on. So I think we're at 4, right? Someone help me out. Who's at Snowden Farm? Yeah, okay. And then I used to work at Captain James Daly Elementary as well, down the road. I was a previous PDO instructor. I say previous because I did take off this semester. to focus a little bit more on the kiddos, but I do like to specialize in math instruction. So I taught MA 92 a couple times, which is math within that K-2 range. So just a little bit about me. All right, so to start off this morning, we're gonna actually take a time to reflect. We're gonna look at a reflection trajectory, just so we can get an idea for our own self and our own professional learning. Where do we fall on this trajectory with standards for mathematical practice? And this can be put into the chat or just held, within yourself. But it would be nice to use the chat because then I would be able to see if you want to post it just to me or everybody. But one would be, I'm unfamiliar with the standards. Maybe you don't know what each of them are. Maybe two, you've heard of them. You've done some, you've dabbled somewhat, but not really knowing what each one is or what they mean. Three would be, what the standards are, but do not discuss standards with students quite yet. Or four is you are knowing the standards and have been promoting development with these standards with your students. So take just a moment to reflect. And also, if you feel like you're somewhere else on this trajectory, go ahead and put that too. Not limiting it to just these four. I'm gonna give us about a minute. Thank you for those who are posting in the chat. It's nice. And I like how I'm seeing too, like some in-betweens. Because it's like, here's where I am, but maybe I'm sort of dabbling into this level where I want, this is where I'm, so I love the reflection. Okay, now reflecting upon this is going to help you later today because part of our learning goal is actually, I'm going to have you all set your own professional learning goal. Okay, so I'll provide some of the session goals today. Of course, we're going to explore the standards for mathematical practice and we'll engage in some tasks that promote and develop these practices. So we want to be able to take a look at tasks from a student lens and then also see how we can facilitate the standards for our students. But definitely by the end of the session, you're going to be creating your own professional goal, just depending on where you fell in that trajectory and where you would like to see yourself going next, an obtainable goal for yourself. So we'll get to that later. All right, y'all, you ready? Here we go. So what are the standards for mathematical practice? I like this breakdown because it really shows you here that they do come from Common Core. They're Common Core state standards for mathematics. And the standards are broken down into kind of two ways. You have practice standards, mathematical practices, and then you have your content standards. So for our practices, this is more of our mathematical habits. This is our encouraging to be a math thinker, not just a math doer. Whereas our content is, of course, our procedural skills. So ultimately, these two together, procedural skills with understanding, is developing the full standard. And so I like this image too. This came from the National Council for Teaching Mathematics as well. And so it shows you here how it's broken down and the difference between the two. So what are they? They're descriptions of ways of thinking that mathematically proficient students use. Versus our content standards, right, are the descriptions of what students should understand and be able to do mathematically. And so I love looking at how they're organized because this really helps me, especially in early childhood, that the standards start in early childhood and they go all the way up to 12th grade. They're the same set of 8 standards to be used in all grade levels. Of course, they're going to develop over time. They're going to change in capacity and become more broadened in meaning. But then our standards for content, we know, develop by grade level and domain across grade levels. A little bit of the difference in how they're connected. And where do they come from? So I was doing some research too on like how were the standards even developed? And if you go on to the Common Core state website, it talks about how the standards were described from the expertise that mathematics, that all math educators at all levels should be seeking to develop in our students, and that these practices rest on two really important like processes and proficiencies. And one of them was from NCTM, excuse me, the National Council for Teaching Mathematics. And the other source came from the strands of mathematical proficiency. And so when we look at what National Council of Teaching Mathematics tells us, they say that the standards really break down into problem solving, reasoning and proof, communication, representation, and connections. And so with this problem solving, you know, that's that process of applying a variety of appropriate strategies, and the reasoning and proof that's, you know, really making the investigations and developing of our arguments, which we'll see how that connects with the standards in a little while. And of course, our communication goes in with that, being able to communicate clearly with our peers, teachers, and other. Representations will be our way we organize our mathematics and how we, excuse me, I'm letting some folks in. Okay. And how we communicate mathematical ideas. And then we have connections. So really being able to recognize and connect among different mathematical ideas. Hi, welcome if you just came in. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Also, the other source that we will be looking at that is kind of the root is the strands of mathematical proficiency. So these 5 core ideas also help in developing our mathematical standards. So our conceptual understanding, our procedural fluency is in there, our strategic competence, you know, the ability to formulate, represent, and solve our problems, the adaptive reasoning, that's that capacity for the reflection and explanation, justification, and then our productive disposition. So this is, you know, when I think of that, it's the really being able to look at our own efficiency and being able to solve and being able to look at sensible answers. Okay, so now that we kind of got into the root of where they come from, let's look at what the standards are. So here are our 8 standards for mathematical practice, right from Common Core. And when I was looking at these before in one of the PDO classes I taught, we kind of broke them down into 4 overarching ideas that all 8 can kind of fit into. So I was going to have us look at these and put in the chat, for example, which standards we see that kind of fit into the realm of habit of our mind, our reasoning and explaining, our modeling and using tools, and then seeing structure and generalizing, because all 8 kind of fit into these overarching ideas. So if we look at the 8 standards, we have make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. 2 is reason abstractly and quantitatively. Hi, welcome if you just came on. Thank you for joining us. 3, thanks. 3 is construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. 4, being model with mathematics. 5, being use appropriate tools strategically. 6, attend to precision. 7, look for and make sense of structure. And 8, look for and express regularity and repeated reasoning. And so when we're looking at those 4 overarching ideas, I'm thinking about for habit of the mind, like being a productive math thinker. Go ahead and put in the chat, what standards do you think fit kind of into that overarching idea of habit of the mind and productive math. Oh yeah, definitely one. Yeah, definitely one, right? That perseverance. Yeah, and then I felt sick. Yeah. Six. I agree with attending to precision being a habit of our mind, making sure that we're always able to go back and really be thinking about how it relates. Like maybe someone's off mute. If we want to make sure we're on mute, that would be awesome. Thank you. All right, how about let's go to reasoning and explaining. Which standards do we see kind of fit into that realm of reasoning and explaining? Yeah, I see that one because it has reason right in it, right? Number two, yeah, reasoning abstractly and quantitatively. And then three, yes, definitely with when we're critiquing the reasoning of others, then we are using that explaining capacity. Good job, y'all. I think, yeah. I think, yeah, like look for an express regularity. I can see how that also could fit into it because you're having to reason about when you're expressing the regularity, you're reasoning about why that's repeated. I could definitely see that. Thank you. All right, how about modeling and using tools? That one, let's use some context, please. We can see that. Modeling and using tools. Yeah, y'all got that. When we're modeling with our mathematics, it's our ability to express our strategies and what our brain is thinking. And then our using the tools strategically, yes. And this could be many forms of tools. This can be tangible tools. It could be also tools such as sleep diagrams, but using them in a strategic way. Good. And then so for theme structure and generalizing, what do y'all think for that one? That overarching idea. Yeah. All right, looking for making use of the structure. And that generalizing, I could also see, as some of you said, with 8, you're making a generalization. Good job, y'all. Yeah, so I think looking at all 8 can be a lot, but if we kind of look at them in terms of these overarching ideas, it can help us kind of narrow it down a bit. Thank you for your engagement with that. And this is just one way to look at it. Of course, it's not the only way, only capacity, depending on what we're doing, of course. But it is one way to piece together SMP. So I think some of us definitely had aligned with these ideas of how it can be broken down. So good job engaging with that. And for being risk takers, y'all are doing well to Zoom norm. Good job. All right, so let's take a look at a quote. This comes from putting the pieces into action. I'll let you all go ahead and read that. Go ahead and read it. And this comes from putting the practices into action. And I really like that last part. These mathematical practices elevate our students' learning from knowledge base to the actual application of doing the math. All right, y'all. So we're going to jump in here, kind of switch gears a little bit and show how these standards can be looked at on a weekly, daily basis, with your teams, depending on your role with the county right now. Something our team has been doing is we've been at the beginning of every module, because we teach Eureka math as our curriculum. And so at the beginning of each module, we've been going into the manual and actually looking in at the beginning of each teacher manual. It has actually what the focus standards for mathematical practice are within that module, and how they directly link to what your students are going to be doing content-wise. And so our team has really taken the time to, like, at the beginning of each module, see how these standards are applied. So as you can see, this is from grade 1. It's our grade 1 module 1 example. And it's how we started off planning, and so that we can be having the conversation with each other, but also with our students when that arises. So just for an example, MP6, our standard 6, attending to precision. When we read this and saw students clarify the meaning of commutative property as they represent the same stories with the repositioned add-ins. And then students also state the meaning of the equal sign when they represent one amount with two different expressions connected by the equal sign. And so when we were planning our lessons and looking deeper at the standards that connect, the content standards that connect, we were like, wow, so when our students are engaging in this, task, we did a lot of fluencies and things on the meaning of the equal sign and the balanced equations. It was an opportunity for us to talk to our students about the importance of attending to precision and being looking very carefully, understanding the meaning of the equal sign, but also being able to explain why is it that 8 plus 2 is equal to 4 plus 6, and having that level of conversation. So it's just a nice opportunity to really look at how the standards are applicable to your module you're teaching and the lessons that you're teaching. And these are kind of overarching ideas, but of course, on a daily basis, you can be applying standards for mathematical practice. And so just for an example, this application problem, which we all teach, have application problems throughout our lessons, but this is actually connecting with SMP 1 and 4, which were not mentioned in our overview. But that's because when solving an application problem, we are making sense of the problem on a daily basis. So that's how we've been starting our application problems with our students. We've been kind of doing the whole playing detective, aspect. First grade, got to get it fun and engaging for them. But we have our magnifying glasses, and we're engaging in the word problem and saying, we got to make sense of this problem, and we need to determine what we know, and then we have to figure out what we don't know, so we can be detectives to solve. And in doing that, we tell our students, like, you're making sense of the problem right now. And, so just incorporating the language of SMPs, we're already doing that, but incorporating the language of it and expressing to our students how they're engaging in that practice. And then for how they're solving it, that they're solving with modeling with mathematics. Here, the example was that they would be using a number bond, and they were actually using number paths, which reminds me, so I actually standard 5 technically using a tool strategically with a number path, and that's what it looks like for first grade, but then being able to apply that into a number sentence, both addition and subtraction. So just kind of showing that students are on a daily basis engaging in these practices, but just a way for us to really highlight that with our students. And so a way to do that is our team has decided we have some posters that we put up on this is my cabinet, but we have posters that go through each practice, and then the little magnifying glasses, that we use in our lesson. I just go up and I put it on whatever one, I see the kids are engaging with. I'm like, okay, we're going to mathematical practice 1, we're making sense of our problem. We're modeling with mathematics right now, and we're using our number path. We're using a tool strategically to help us solve. So everything that I normally would teach, same way, I'm just highlighting, the practice they're engaging with. And so this is just a way you can bridge that for students. And I wanted to give us time, actually, we have a few minutes available, that I wanted to give you all an opportunity to actually choose the grade level you teach or support, to find what SMPs are present in that module, kind of like I showed you before, the overview. That way you can have a launching off point to kind of see, what standards are prominent in the module. So you could, of course, look at the module you're teaching right now, or maybe one that you're going to get into teaching next. And I'd love to show you all where to obtain this. If you have your actual book or you want to use Navigator, you would go to teacher module, and that's your virtual version of your book. But it's usually right in the front of your book. So we wanted to take a few minutes for everybody to have an opportunity to look at that in a particular module. That we could definitely do that. So I could set a timer, let's say for like 5 minutes for you to just get those standards looked at. And I was going to say, if you need help, I'm here to walk you through it. But I typically would go to my classroom. And of course, you can look at any grade level you want. Mine might take a minute to look. So when you're in the navigator here, hi, welcome if you just came on. Session 2 is going to begin at 10:30. So if you're coming on the kind of later end, if you want to come back at the 10:30 section, that might be more beneficial for your learning, but completely up to you because you're here for your own self, whatever you want to do. But I just went to module 1. I'm going to my navigator and going to the actual teacher module. I say that because I know they have on the side, they say like highlighted standards for practice, but they don't have the descriptors the same way that the teacher module book does. So like when you click on this too, it's really just, it's giving you the definition of the standard from Common Core. So I know that that does exist in the drop downs, but I really like in the actual module how it gives you the descriptors, of how they're applied. And so that would require you to actually open your module book. But typically, like I said, it's usually right in the front after the overview. It breaks down your standards. So it shows you your focus standards, but also your mathematical practices and your foundational standards. So I'm going to give you guys just a few minutes to explore that, and then we'll come back together for the rest. Okay. Maybe we'll just go to 10:07 now. We started a little later, so I'm trying to go quickly, y'all. All right, we'll do about one more minute, and then if y'all want to look on your break or maybe after later today, you can look a little bit more in depth, but I'm to give you a chance to see where to access that. And y'all, I do have these posters also. I sort of took the, you'll see, I took the Common Core images and put them in the corner of the posters so that they can have the real descriptors on there. But being first grade, it's some of the language, can be difficult. So I'm trying to make sure I can be relatable to my students. So as a team, we kind of looked at how to make I can statements based on, the descriptor of the standard. So for making sense of problems and persevering, for that one, we kind of felt like our students could obtain, I can make sense of a problem and persevere, but we did give some leading questions on that. So, have I seen a problem like this before? Or what do I know? What do I not know? That is really helping facilitate that thinking for the students and kind of having a jumping off point to engage in that task. So then the actual descriptor is here. But I put them all on here for you guys if you want to pull them off, and you can customize them, for your own class. You could put your own images on based on, where of course addition and subtraction, but if you wanted something more applicable to the grade level that you're teaching, that these are available for you guys. For reason abstractly and quantitatively, for example, I can use numbers and words to make sense of a problem. So kind of using a little bit more friendly language. Yeah, I can definitely share the posters with you guys because I know this presentation is going to be shared, but I can actually share the file that I have, and that way you can edit them and everything for your own grade. But they're here. I also put another page, this one. This is the poster, the actual Common Core poster. If you have like a poster maker at work or something, but I have also links here to other posters. I just love goodies and stuff. So I wanted to share some things with you guys. And this presentation will be shared, so you'll get access to these links later. But you'll see some are broken down into more friendly language, and some are more advanced, like 2 to 3 posters are here and 4 to 5. So you can kind of use that, decide what you want to embrace in your classroom. But part of today, I did want to engage in some tasks, just so y'all can see how it can be, applied directly through your teaching. And this task is not a Eureka task by any means. I don't remember them using candies like this, but this does come from one of the like math challenges that we have. And I thought, well, actually, this could be applied to any grade level. You could change out the operation that you're using, the numbers that you're using. And so this one actually fit really nicely into a first grade scale we were working on. But I wanted to take a look at this task and see what kind of S&Ps we'd be engaging in looking at a task like this. And so the directions clearly are kind of obvious, but each candy is representing a specific quantity, a number. And you're supposed to be able to find what the number is that they represent based on what you know. And it gives you some information. But does anyone want to walk us through for this task? Like where would you even begin here? Do you see a place that you could start? If the candies have to be the same number. And anybody, you can use the chat or you can call out whatever is more comfortable to you. Kimberly says she would start with the peanut butter cup. Yep. Because when I did this with my students, of course, some of them just, I'll start at the top. I'm gonna get some quantities. Because they're used to starting just at the beginning with things. But I love how you said that. Because you're gonna be adding the same number. So that's a spot, but you have to really analyze that, right, in order to see that. And so you're gonna have the same number repeated. So this ended up working nice for us because we had just got done teaching double stacks. So I was like, yeah, it's a double stack. Yes. And so once you know that the peanut butter cup is 6, you can then apply that number 6, right, to another area of the task. And what would you do after we apply that number 6 to the peanut butter cup? And we have a missing add-in number because we have a whole part. We know there's a total of 10. We know one of the parts is 6. Whenever we have one part that we know and a whole, we can be detectives, right? We can find that missing part. Exactly. So then we would know our Sour Patch Kids are 4 based on that 6 plus 4 equals 10. We can apply that up to the top, apply the 4 to Sour Patch Kids. Then we're looking for Kit Kat. What is our Kit Kat quantity? And yes, Rachel, thank you for recognizing that too, because then they can recognize what kind of fact that is and make 10, which of course, if you teach first grade, that is also facts we just covered. Hi, welcome. If you just came in, our session 2 does begin at 10:30. So if you want to, you can remain in or you can come back at 10:30 for our next session. Whenever you would like. All right, so yep, we can do a make 10 for that as well. If we have Sour Patches 4, we're looking for what number plus 4 will equal to 20. And so with that, even though that was a little challenge for my students and what the standard is for them, they could apply that make 10 strategy to a making 20. So it was definitely a way to elevate the thinking and provide an opportunity for a challenge. But let's talk about what SMPs are you engaging in with a task like this, or will our students be engaging? I saw someone wrote one earlier. Yeah, you had said looking for regularity, especially with some of the repeatedness of the numbers. Definitely 1, I think 2, of course, 1, making sense of our problem. That was the first thing you had to do, is make sense of what was going on here and where you could even begin in the process. Definitely. Reasoning abstractly, thinking about what makes sense. So number 2, absolutely. Because it's not going to make sense for me to, say 5 and 7 for a peanut butter cup if I know a constraint was it need to be a repeated number, things like that. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot you're doing in a task just like this that you can facilitate with your students. I like these 2. You could always change out the images, to be anything engaging for your students if they're into other stuff. Thank you for interacting with that task. I did have a couple more, but I know our time is very limited and I do want to respect session 2. I want to respect, your break time and getting yourself situated, but I just do want to show you the rest of the presentation so you know what's in it. We won't engage in the other 2 tasks, but the other one was a grade 3 example that came right from module 3. So I wanted to show you guys, we don't have to do extra tasks or things to engage in SMPs. They're happening right within our own curriculum. And a situation like this is a wonderful example. If you're 3rd grade, I know this is a big, topic for you, that Robert ate a half of a small pizza and Elizabeth ate a 4th of the large pizza. Elizabeth says, my pizza is larger than yours, so that means 1/4 is greater than a half. Is she correct? And explaining your answer. So, in a task like this, you're definitely going to be constructing the viable arguments, right? And critiquing the reasoning of others, specifically Elizabeth in this case. But then this task could then be carried through and done other things into your classroom with that. Another example was from 4th grade. Again, I'm just really highlighting the fact that we don't have to go beyond. We can go right into our Eureka curriculum and see these practices in action. And I definitely will drop the link for you guys before you leave, just because I don't exactly know how it's being shared after. So yes, I will do that. I ended with a quote. Let me just go back here. So if you guys want this quote to read, it's a kind of our final quote. Give you just a minute to do that. All right, so definitely we want to make sure our students are engaging in the practices as well as our content standards. And really they're weaving through. So it's really just thinking about our professional goal, setting a professional goal for ourselves based on our reflection of the trajectory earlier when our session began and our new learning from today. I would just love to hear if you have kind of a goal that you'd like to work on in your classroom. You can drop it in the chat, or of course keep it for yourself, whenever you would like. But I do ask if you could please do the evaluation. So I have the QR there, but I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And then I'll also drop the presentation link in the chat. So sorry, I feel a little bit rushed, but I just appreciate you guys being here. And it was a quick session. But again, I will be doing this again at 10:30 if you want to tell anybody about it. The evaluation is there. And I'm also going to get you guys to the presentation. Let me stop sharing my screen. Now I want to make sure that this is on, make sure the setting is right. Were you able to access the evaluation of the session? Thank you. Yeah, and email me, you guys, if you need anything or, have any more questions about this content. I'd be happy to help with what I can. But also I know, if you have a staff development teacher in your school and a math content coach, they're probably really well versed also in these practices to help support. All right, the slides are in. Thank you for sharing your takeaways with me, guys. This is great. So if you did complete the evaluation and you did get access to the slides and you were able to, share a goal, if you would like, you are welcome to go. I know 10:30 again, session 2 starts if you want to visit other presentations. But thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day. It was a pleasure.
Justine, where did you say you sent the evaluation?
Oh, it's in the chat, but I can put it to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I enjoyed this. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I just put that in again. If that works. Does that work for you, Tina? Okay, good. Oh, yep. Thank you, y'all. Have a great day. You're welcome, Laura. Thank you. Yeah. I just want to make sure I was looking at who was left on here because I'm gonna start a new session at 10:30. So I didn't know if okay. Thank you, Anthony. That's very kind. Have a great day, sir.
Oh, Ms. Dix, I'm sorry, I forgot to leave, but I did fill out the survey. And
Oh,
have a good day.
Thank you, ma'am. You too. Enjoy.
Good, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'm leaving the meeting.
Okay, you have a good one. Hi, Rose. Are you there? Good morning, everyone. I just completed session one, so I think my sound and everything's working, but just give me some feedback so I can be sure if you can hear me, see me. The chat should be open. I see some of us are still connecting, so I'll give us a minute. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to session two. So I'll be running through this presentation with you guys on standards for mathematical practice. Thank you for being here. Again, I just want to check my sound. Can you hear me okay? Okay, Lacey, thank you. Good to see everybody. I hope you had a good session one. If you were able to get to another experience, that's great. All right, so I'm going to share my screen, and then afterwards, I'll go ahead and give you guys a presentation so you have access to, you know, what we go over today. All right, can y'all see that okay? Thank you so much. All right, well, welcome again to the PLCamp of 2022. And again, today we're going to focus on standards for mathematical practice. I'll be your facilitator. I am Justine Dix, and I'll go over a little bit about myself in a moment. We'll do our Zoom norms. You probably saw this on your first session if you were in there, but we're going to have our cameras on to engage in the learning, muting. You guys all know the rules of that. You're doing great. We'll be experimenting with new ideas, taking responsibility for our learning, listening with intent to learn, taking risks, and of course, being digitally responsible with our learning today. So thank you. All right, so a little bit about myself, y'all. So first thing is I'm a wife. And then with that, I am a mother of two. So my son, he is almost 3. He'll be 3 in 2 months, the start of the new year. And then my daughter is almost 1. She'll be 1 in 3 weeks. Like, I cannot believe I've been planning her first birthday party. But yep, I got the 2 little ones there. Of course, we had our little time at the pumpkin patch, you know, doing that whole thing. So that was a fun time. And then so for professionally, I have been teaching in the county. I've been with Montgomery County for 10 years. And for my classroom experience, I taught in grades K, 1, 2, 3. So as you see, I'm really loving the realm of early childhood education. And for schools, I currently work at Snowden Farm Elementary School. We are in Clarksburg. And we're a fairly new school. I've been here since we opened. It's been actually 4 years now. Can't believe that. Previously, I taught at Captain James Daly, EASA down the street from where I am now. I am a previous PDO instructor. I say previous, but I did take this semester off to focus on the little ones. But I have taught MA 92, and that's a math course designed specifically to hone in on that grade K to 2 range. So that's sort of where I got my inspiration, you know, for mathematics. And so I really have a passion for that. And part of the course, we do discuss our standards for mathematical practice. I'm hoping to be able to give you all some of those nuggets today and get some of that information out to you. And with that being said, we're going to take a moment of reflection. And this is a reflection trajectory to just see where you are in your learning process with the SMPs. And you can definitely use the chat. This kind of helps me see where we are. But also it's just more for your own self to have that reflection time. So you can share a 1 would be you're unfamiliar with the standards for mathematical practice. Right? So you're here to learn what they are. Maybe 2 is you've heard of them, but you do not know maybe what the standards are. Or 3, I know what the standards are, but I do not discuss them with students. And then 4, I know what they are and have been promoting development of these standards with students. So go ahead and take a moment to reflect. And of course, are you somewhere else on this trajectory? I'm not limiting it to these 4 things. So go ahead and share where you are. Thank you for sharing. And really, this gives us an opportunity, of course, to reflect on our own learning, but it's also because part of your goal today is actually going to be setting up your own professional growth goal. And so this is going to help with that process, being able to see where you are and where you plan to go from there. So part of our session goals are, we're going to be exploring the standards for mathematical practice, of course. We're going to engage in tasks that promote and develop these practices. So we'll go through some different tasks that we can really engage in the practices with our students. And so, of course, by the end of the session, you will create your own professional growth goal based on your learning today. All right, so let's go on and get into it, you guys. So what are the standards for mathematical practice? So they do come from Common Core state standards. They can be looked up on the Common Core website. There's descriptors of each one, but basically the standards for practice are our mathematical habits, and our standards for mathematical content, the actual content standards are more the procedural skills. And so with the two together, it really helps capture the procedural skill with our understanding. So it encourages being a math thinker versus just a math doer, and then being able to embrace with understanding. And I really love this document as well, coming from the National Council for Teaching Mathematics. It shows what they are and how they're organized. So again, for standards for mathematical practice, they're descriptions of ways of thinking that mathematically proficient students use, versus our content are the descriptions of what students should understand and be able to do mathematically. And for how they're organized, those SMPs, there is 8 standards that are used all throughout all grades. They're the same 8 standards that go from K. I've actually seen how they're applied in pre-K, but from early on all the way to 12th grade, they're the same standards that develop over time. Of course, they broaden in meaning and are engaged in a different capacity, but they're the same standards that students develop. Now, for content standards, we know that those change based on grade level, cluster, and the conceptual category related to the math is changing over time. That's kind of the main difference between the two. But all in all, they work together to form that being a math thinker, not just a math doer. So where do they come from? That's where I started doing some research at first. And the descriptor online, it tells us that the practices rest on some really important fundamental rooted ideas that come from certain processes and proficiencies for mathematical thinking. And so the National Council for Teaching Mathematics Principles and Standards breaks down some really core ideas, and then also the strands of mathematical proficiency coming from this resource here. So looking at, for National Council for Teaching Mathematics, some of these principles can be broken down even further, but I'll show you kind of where the core comes from. Is problem solving, the process of applying the variety of appropriate strategies. Our reasoning and proof, that's the making and investigating mathematical conjectures, developing arguments and the proofs. Communication, so that's organizing mathematical thinking coherently and clearly, of course, to our peers, using language of math to express our ideas precisely. You have representation, so creating and using the multiple representations to organize and communicate math ideas. And then you have your connections. That's recognizing and using connections among mathematical ideas, and of course, sometimes over different subject areas. So based on these core ideas, and also some core ideas from strands of mathematical proficiency, I won't define each one because they're kind of described in just their titles alone, but you have the conceptual understanding, your procedural fluency. I'm thinking about, this is kind of how I'm thinking you could have some components of these as well. Our strategic competence, our adaptive reasoning, and our productive disposition. So again, the standards for mathematical practice are really based upon these core values and ideas, and they're strongly rooted in these ideas. So with that being said, let's jump into what they are. These are the 8 standards for mathematical practice. These come right from Common Core, as I said before. And you can go to the website and get the in-depth descriptors. In the class that I taught, we really dive into each one. You know, this is a 45-minute presentation to get some nuggets. But if you really want to do some research on them, Common Core is a great resource for you to go and look at how each one is specifically defined. That kind of time today, so I would love to. But I really, to look at them at a quicker pace, I was thinking we could break them up into 4 really overarching ideas. So you have your 8 standards here and run through what they are. 1 is making sense of problems and persevering in solving them. 2 is reason abstractly and quantitatively. 3, construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. 4, model with mathematics. 5, use appropriate tools strategically. 6, attend to precision. 7, look for and make use of structure. And 8, look for and express regularity and repeated reason. And looking at, you know, some of the verbs I'm seeing here, we can really break it down into kind of 4 overarching ideas to help us better understand them. Hi, Janet, welcome. Thanks for joining. And so we have habits of our mind, being a productive mathematical thinker. We have reasoning and explaining, modeling and using tools, seeing structure, and generalizing. So looking at these 4 overarching ideas, we're just going to do an exercise of kind of which standards we think fall into these ideas. So let's look at for habits of mind. What do we think, which standards do we think fall into that realm of being a productive mathematical thinker? Habits of mind.
Maybe 1 and 2.
I would definitely, yeah, 1 for sure, because you're making sense of problems, being able to really analyze, and then, but yet persevering, that's definitely a habit of our mind, our mindset. And I see, yeah, 2, okay, yep, reasoning abstractly. So a habit of our mind, you know, it's something not so blatantly obvious, right? When you're looking abstractly. In the other session too, we were talking about 6, like attending to precision, and we'll kind of get into a little bit deeper why that is. But for attending to precision, you know, that's like really a mindset that every single time, you know, you're engaging in math, we are going back and we are asking ourselves, does this make sense? And, you know, that's really a habit of our mind. We're teaching our students from a young age to just go back and check our work and make sure it's making sense and going back to the question. Good job. Okay, so how about reasoning and explaining? What do we think for that one? Some of our S&Ps that fall into reasoning and explaining.
Three.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say 1.
Yeah, definitely when you're making sense of problems and you need to provide reasoning for that.
8, maybe.
Oh, yeah, 8. Yep, because, and I see there, you know, when you're looking for and expressing regularity in repeated reasoning, you have to be able to use that reasoning to see that repetition. Someone else has said 3, right? Yes, construct viable arguments and critiquing reasoning of others. Definitely that's using explaining, right? And of course, reasoning is there. Good. I mean, some of these you can kind of pick up on just using context clues and seeing how they're connected to each other. So for modeling and using tools, that one's a little bit obvious, but go ahead and shout out for modeling and using tools, which S&Ps connect there.
4 and 5.
Yep, you got it. 4 or 5, definitely modeling with mathematics. There's that modeling. And then using appropriate tools strategically. Using our math tools. That could be a tangible tool or maybe a written tool, you know, tape diagrams and such. Good job. And then seeing structure and generalizing. We think for that.
7.
Looking for and making use of certain structures. Because in math, there's definitely a structure that can be built upon and
But we could also go to 2 as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. I was kind of thinking 8 for that too, because you're
8,
making
yeah.
generalizations. Good. And I like engaging in this piecing together the SMPs, because I think with these overarching ideas, we can really see, first of all, how they're connected. This is just one way to look at it. Of course, it's not the end all be all way, but I liked this resource because it helped me when I was, really learning more about the SMPs and how they work together. So just a way to engage in learning what they are. Thank you for your engagement on that. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all read this quote. So I'll give you a minute to read it. This comes from Putting the Practices into Action. And I really love that last part. These mathematical practices elevate our students' learning from knowledge to the application. And so taking what they're knowing on math and they're actually applying and doing that through the practices. All right, so I wanted to show you guys something that has been such a upgrade to my team of learning on SMPs this year is we have really taken the time to look at our Eureka curriculum a little bit more in depth. It's been a couple years with Eureka now that we can kind of look at it in all the facets. And one of the parts of Eureka's book at the beginning of every module is a breakdown of the focus standards for mathematical practice. And it's something that in class we were looking at also. And so at the beginning of our planning sessions, our team collaborative, planning our curriculum studies, we've been at the beginning of every new module, we take a look at what SMPs show up and are most prominent in that module. And the Eureka module manual will actually break down for you the SMPs and how they are represented and how students are engaging in those SMPs. And so, for example, if you look at SMP 6, Attending to Precision, this really formed almost our entire curriculum study when we were focusing on Attend to Precision, because we had talked about in this particular module, the lessons we were about to teach were specifically on commutative property and the meaning of the equal sign. So we spent a lot of time around this standard, and it states students clarify, this is first grade, y'all, sorry. Students clarify the meaning of the commutative property as they represent the same stories with repositioned addends. Students also state the meaning of the equal sign when they represent one amount with two different expressions connected by an equal sign. And so when we connected this mathematical practice to the content standard, we realized, wow, when we're explaining and we're engaging in these tasks where students are really being precise with this equal symbol, knowing what it means, but also being able to look really carefully. Our students were engaging in a task where they had to say, is the equation true or false based on what was represented on both sides of that equal sign? So if they were engaging in 4 plus 6 equals 8 plus 2, their ability to be precise and be able to state the meaning of the equal sign first, but then of course explain how those two different expressions are connected with that symbol was a way to engage in that practice. And so for us, it was kind of a light bulb that went off in terms of just being more transparent with our students of when these practices are being engaged with. And you can see for the other standards how they show up in the specific module we're teaching. And so not just in the module you're teaching, but on a regular basis, we're seeing the standards in just everyday tasks that we've been doing in math. So many of us, we teach with, you again have the application problems, right? And so every day we talk about, really every single day you're engaging in SMP 1 and 4. And lately we've been doing with our students to get them really engaged, because it's first grade, we have to really up that engagement piece. But we've been giving out magnifying glasses to students to take turns to share out first, what do we know? and what do we not know? What are our constraints we're trying to solve? And that's really engaging in SMP 1. And so we talk to our students about that. We say, you know, right now we're going to make sense of the problem. And to make sense of a problem, we need to read it and decide what information is presented and what we don't know yet. And so that's what that whole role playing of being a detective comes in, and they take their magnifying glass and they find what they know. And again, we just continue to tell them you're making sense of the problem. So really teaching them that practice that they're engaging in. And then they're always modeling with mathematics, at least that's for ours. They always have to provide some kind of showing of their thinking, right? And so in this particular task, one way to do that was to use a number bond to represent the whole and the different parts. But they actually, I didn't put this on there, but I'm just realizing too, they also engage in SMP 5, which was using tools strategically, because we had just taught about something called the number path. And the number path is actually could be a tangible number path or simply one written down, but a strategic tool that they can use to either subtract or add up. So really they're doing all of these things. It's just us shining light on these practices that they are already engaging in. And so to do that and make it more transparent for our students, we decided to have, of course, some posters. I had made these posters that take the actual Common Core descriptors and have some I can statement in a more friendly language. But they're hung up on the cabinet over here. And so as we're engaging in practices, I simply take that magnifying glass and I go put it over top of which practice we're working on in that moment. So they know, you know, okay, we're making sense of the problem right now. And this is the I can make sense of it. What do I know? What do I not know? So just really, again, highlighting for them what they're engaging with. And I do have these posters on the next slide when I give you guys the presentation. Again, like I said, I took the actual descriptor from this Common Core poster and I had put it on a slide with an I can statement, but also just some questions and things to help engage them into that practice. So for 2, for example, 2 is reason abstractly and quantitatively, but for my students, you know, I might say we can use numbers and words to make sense of the problem. And so just something more friendly for them and kind of have an example of how
Are these appropriate for kindergarten as well?
I would definitely say so. I've done this at my school. At a staff meeting, and the kindergarten teachers did say that this was helpful and that you can actually change out the numbers if you want to be, you know, something that's making more sense for your students. But absolutely, yes. In fact, I had found a document that showed how the SMPs work in pre-K. So I was like, oh yeah, definitely good. So I'll give you this that you guys can edit some of the, you know, like, I don't know if you use the number path per se, but something that's more applicable to your students and what they're used to seeing. So you could maybe put what tools they use most often, you know, on there. Like we use the 10 frame a lot and things. So definitely you can have these posters and upgrade them to your liking. But before we move on any further, I do want to give you guys a chance to actually check online or in your module book the SMPs that are present in either the module you're teaching or maybe the one you're going to teach next, so you can be, you know, looking ahead. But I wanted to show you guys how to get, you know, to this piece, so that maybe you could bring it into planning or have it for your own learning benefit. But if you have your actual book, that's the best way. I'm a book person, but that's just me. But that's the best way in terms of just accessing it quickly. But in your whatever module you're teaching, there's a page. It'll be different for everybody, I'm sure, but it's right after the overview. It breaks down kind of right after the, you know how it goes, tells you all the minutes and everything. Then it tells you your focus grade level standard. Well, after that, it breaks down into foundational standards that are needed prior. And then it drops down and you'll see the focus standards. If you're online, I was going to show you how to get to it there too. You would go to your Eureka InSync and Navigator. Once you're on the Navigator, I'm grade 1, so I'm just showing you from mine. Go to whatever module you're interested in doing the learning in. You want to go to your actual Eureka Math Navigator. Once you're in the Navigator, that's where you can get your teacher module manual, the PDF version. And I say this because some folks have also shown how, the highlighted standards for practice are here in a drop down. However, they only tell you what standards are highlighted. They don't actually tell you how. So if you click on this, for example, it's only going to give you the descriptor for SMP2, like the actual definition, but it doesn't give you how it connects directly to what your students are learning. So that's why I like opening the book. And when you open your actual teacher module manual, you'll see it. For mine, it's page 12. I don't know what it would be for yours. But I wanted to give us maybe about 3 minutes to explore that and just take a look. Because not everyone knew that that existed or is there. I'm here if you need any help with that. But let's take about 3 minutes to explore which mathematical practices are in a module you're either teaching or going to teach or supporting. All right. Does anyone want to shout out what is one of the SMPs that they noticed that their students are going to engage in?
I was gonna say, hi, my name is Janet, guys. Sorry I was late.
That's okay.
Mine is not showing it listed as SMPs because I do kindergarten.
Okay.
Mines are just I guess MPs. I don't know if I'm looking at it
Yes.
correctly.
No, yep. No, that is another way to say, yep, the mathematical practices. Yes.
Okay, so what was the question?
So like which ones show up in your module? Which module are you looking at? 1 or 2? Where are you guys at with your?
We are all the way on, we're almost out of our first book. I
Yeah.
think we're on like 30 or 31.
So, but you're in module 1's book right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you go to, it should say focus standards for mathematical practice. You're right. They're called the MPs.
Oh,
Which one shows up in your book?
Oh, and mine is the MPs. Yeah.
Yeah, so what's
So I have 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. And
For kindergarten, I know.
right. So I was like, could you read one of them to us? Like, how do they engage? You could just pick one.
Sure.
Tell us how
Okay, so
kids engage with that.
for the MP2 is the same one, reason abstractly and quantitatively. Students represent quantities with numerals.
Mhm.
3 is too long. Let me see. I'll do number 4. MP4 is model with mathematics. Students model decompositions of 3 objects as math drawings and addition equations.
See, that's good. So when your kids are doing that decomposition of, showing, I think it's that whole with the part of the two, you can be encouraging your students. This is us modeling with mathematics, right? So it's like you're demonstrating that practice with them as they're engaging in the content. And then when they get up, to first grade, same thing. When I'm talking to them about model, I'm like, today we're going to model with our number bond, and so it's connecting that language for students across all grade levels, which I think is so great, starting with K. And leading
Yes.
up in. Thank you, Janet, for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay, I was gonna say, the only thing that's really frustrating is when you model, because I think we do not the application problem.
Mhm.
So when we do model, well, for my group, I have to sometimes, but
Mhm.
you'll stand up there and do all of that. And then when they get the work into the workbook, they're still kind of lost. And you're just
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm trying not to lose hope, but it's
Yeah.
so frustrating.
I definitely hear you. That application piece takes time for sure. And that's kind of what I think about it is it's like a long-term goal. I think with that. And it's hard for us in the moment. I know because I'm a first grade teacher and I'm with you. Those levels of frustration are real. But I think if we look more long-term, and just think about one of my little things I've been saying to myself and now my students, I say practice makes progress. We are practicing this to progress ourselves every time to get better. And so that's what I tell myself. But I hear you, Janet. Thank you for sharing.
Janet, I totally understand. I teach kindergarten as well. And some of the tasks require the kindergartners to have fine motor skills that they may not have yet. And
Mhm.
I've experienced that frustration too. So I'm totally with you.
Yes. And then I think with first grade too, because I know you guys for foundational standards, since you're K, you are our first one. So we have right above our MPs, we have foundational standards in first that connect with the module too. So we kind of look at what are those standards that maybe our students still need some development in that's creating that gap. And we've been focusing on really how to re-engage them in those standards that you all have given such a nice solid foundation to. So we all need each other and build off each other. So thank you for what you all are doing in kindergarten.
Thank you too. I'm a kindergarten teacher.
Hey.
Thank you, ladies.
Oh, good job, everybody. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to move forward a little bit. As I said, these posters are here if you want to take a look at them and customize them to fit the needs of your class. But also,
Did you share those with us, or are they in the chat? Could you put them in the chat?
Yeah, so they're in my presentation. So I'll send you the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
You guys have it, and then so like as you can see, it's like embedded in there. So you may just need to copy those out. But I also put another link. Let me get it to you guys now before I forget. I want to make sure it's also on, you know how you could change this whole thing. Okay. So the slides are coming in now, because I also have some other posters I wanted y'all to have access to. They're broken down by grade levels, like K and 1 is here, 2 and 3, and 4 and 5. That way, if you're teaching in upper grades, you can kind of look at those and see if those are fitting your needs as well. But it just gives you some nice goodies. I like to give out the goodies, we need to have in our classrooms for our students to have the visuals and everything. And so now that you have those and you have the posters readily available to you, I was going to have us actually engage in a couple tasks that promote different SMPs, and you guys are going to tell me what SMPs are we engaging with in looking at these tasks. So this is one that honestly, this task could be created with any grade level. You could use any symbol. I just picked candy because that's what my heart was feeling, or my stomach or whatever. But you could use any symbol, and you could use any operation and any numbers. So this is just something that you could really use with anything, any grade. And you know, we all teach OA. This is just a nice opportunity to engage with OA standards as well. But let's take a look at this task. Basically, the directions for students are that each symbol, obviously the candies, represent a specific quantity, and our goal is to determine what they are. And one of the things I tell them too is any candy that you see, it's the same number wherever you see that piece of candy. So the Sour Patch Kids, that's going to be the same number. The Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, again, it's got to be the same number. And so once they know that detail, and actually when I did this task with third graders, I made that, what do you know? I made that a wonder, would you wonder? For first grade, I told them that piece of information. I did a scaffold. But with that being said, where would you all start in a task like this? Where could you see yourself beginning?
I was gonna say the candy would definitely get their attention.
Oh, yeah, engagement, got that covered, yeah.
And you said, where would we start as far as like
If you
how
were
to
solving-
incorporate this?
Like if you were solving, we're gonna actually pretend to solve this task right now. If you were solving this task, where would you begin?
And you said that both symbols represent the same number?
Yes.
In kindergarten, I might start with doing a quick fluency with counting up to 10. The math way. That's how I would start it, and then try to, I guess, incorporate because the 10 plus 10 would be maybe not too hard for everybody, but some of them.
Yes, definitely. I know this is more geared. I picked numbers specific for first grade because we had just got done teaching doubles and friends of 10. So this was specifically to reinforce that for my own class. But definitely when I presented this to them, I asked them that same question. I said, well, where could you start? Some of them said, oh, I'll start with the Kit Kat and the Sour Patch Kids. I'll just pick 2 numbers, you know, that was the first one. So they were just picking that one to do because it was the first one presented. But
I
was
would
like,
start with the second one because it's the same symbol, both the Reese's. So I would say, okay, so 12 is the answer. And obviously it has to be a double because it's the same symbol, the same picture for Reese's.
Mm-hmm. And so that was
So
you, yeah.
that's telling me that's
Mhm.
6 plus 6 because it has to be the same number.
Yes, and so, yep, and you just engaged in a SMP. Do y'all know what SMP she just worked with? Definitely in the realm of first making sense of it,
2 or 8.
and then the reasoning, abstracting quantitatively. Yes, at first it's very abstract, but if you think quantitatively, 12 is our whole, it has to be 2 of the same number, then you're able to derive from that the answer of 6. Yep, and then so that 6 then becomes applied, and that reasoning is repeated in the next one, right? So then you can apply that 6, and then you're adding, then you have a missing add-in. 6 plus something is going to equal 10. So if we're looking for making sense of structure, right, and how it's structured, then we can engage in that next piece, which what would it be? 6 plus what equals 10? Before, that would be our friends of 10 facts. And then again, that would be applied to the first one, which this goes beyond our first grade standard, but I always like to, you know, challenge my students. And you can also, you're again making use of your knowledge from a base friend of 10 fact to then apply, well, I can apply a friend of 10 fact to what plus 4 equals 20, because 20 is also, you know, a multiple of 10. So you're engaging in several SMPs throughout just a process like this. And I've done these for like warm-ups and things. And again, a great way to solidify our OA standard, but also engage in SMPs in the process. So that's just a fun one for us that can be applied across any grade level with any numbers or operations. This is just to show you that we don't have to do extra things right outside of our curriculum, right? In Eureka, there's so much involved going on with S&Ps. So I just, for the next two examples, took tasks right from our curriculum. This happens to be a grade 3 example from module 3. And if you teach grade 3, I know that this is a big topic, a big understanding to for our students. It's a big deal here that students have to be able to recognize, of course, that a fourth, you know, is, though it's a bigger number, is not necessarily a larger amount, right? So Robert ate a half a small pizza. Elizabeth ate 1/4 of a large pizza. Elizabeth says, my piece was larger than yours, so that means 1/4 is greater than 1/2. Is Elizabeth correct? Explain your answer. So in a task like this, right away, they're constructing their viable argument, right? And then critiquing the reasoning of others. And in this case, critiquing Elizabeth's reasoning. But I could see this being brought into the classroom and, you know, engaging in this within each other as well. But I know that they engage in critiquing people a lot in Eureka. This shows up many times in our module assessments and things like that. And just to kind of show us how it's all throughout our Eureka curriculum as well. This one was a grade 4 example from their module 3. I'm going to give you a chance to look at the task. And then I want you to put in the chat which S&Ps do you think are aligning with this task. All right, I see 2, reasoning abstractly and quantitatively. Definitely modeling with mathematics when they are using their tiles, right, to find a rectangle that is 3 inches wide and 3 times as long as it is wide. They're having to model with mathematics to show their thinking. Definitely. Yeah, 7, that's the one I was looking at to look for and make use of structure, because they're building, right? That structure kind of stays the same and they're utilizing that and then applying that when they're having that conceptual understanding of the 3 times as wide. Nice. And then, you know, I see, you know, they're engaging in this time to talk with their partner about what the width and length of the rectangle is. So they might, yeah, they might engage in construct viable arguments or critiquing reasoning of others, depending on what is discussed with the partner, right? That's good. Right, so as you can see, I mean, this task alone, this comes from, you know, one of the concept developments of grade 4. And so it's not blatantly stated these practices, but these practices are obviously in action. And so I think for us, it's just being transparent with our students about the practices they're engaging with is the biggest eye opener I've had, is just really being transparent about it and helping to facilitate that with our students. Thank you all for engaging with that. I'm going to have you read this last quote. Again, this comes from putting the practices into action. Kind of sums up our learning for today. That kind of goes back to our beginning, how the mathematical practices that students are engaging in, plus their content that they're receiving, is really what's making a proficient mathematician. So I love that quote to sum up our learning for today. I did want to take this opportunity to have you all, you could either use the chat, or if you want to keep it for your own self, I'm okay with that too. But based on today's session, you'll create a professional goal for yourself. So based on, your reflection of where you were on that trajectory earlier today, and any new learning you received through this experience, what kind of goal could you set, for yourself? And that could definitely be put in the chat or kept for yourself. But I'm also going to put something else for you guys too, if you get done with that. And that's our course evaluation. I have the QR code here, but I also have a survey that the county wants us to do. If you could please take the time to do it. One is a session survey of just what you did with me. It's the same link though. Let me explain it a little bit. This link coming through the chat is a session evaluation of your session time with me today. But you'll see they also have a button for post-event feedback. So because you guys are session 2, they wanted some event feedback too. So what that means is you would submit a session feedback, and then if you want to provide any feedback on just the event in general, you would go back and also click on this one to do it. So you'd basically be doing it twice, if that makes any sense. But clicking on the different buttons to provide that feedback. I'm gonna stop sharing and I'm gonna stop talking so that you guys can have your time to think that I am here. And again, if you fill out the survey,
Miss Nick,
you to go.
can you share the QR code again?
Oh yes, you know
Because
what?
I can't, it's making me do my password and of course I can't remember.
Yeah, let me do that for you.
Thank you.
Let me know if that works for you. Yay, okay. Oh, I love these goals. Thank you for sharing them with me. Good. I appreciate y'all for engaging with me today. Like I said, once you get done with your goal and working on those evals, please just enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you get some things accomplished on our day off. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ms. Dix,
Yeah.
I just wanted you to know, for some reason I was never able to add the chat, but I've been here. So I'm just gonna fill out that survey. And thanks again for all your help.
Oh, you're welcome. You have the link.
Yep, so I'm filling out that survey for the second time. And even though I wasn't able to chat, every time I sent a chat, it just didn't go anywhere. So
Well,
thanks.
it's no problem at all. This is for your learning. I just appreciate you being on. Thank you so much.
Sure, and you have a great day as well.
You too, ma'am. Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you.
Excuse me again.
Hi.
Hi. And for the survey, where are supposed to go?
Click on, oh,
Here, I'll send it to you directly. Let me give it to you.
next.
All right, I sent you the link.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Here we go. Mathematical practices. To the section line was better. Yes, it did. Then non-fiction, not very knowledgeable. How engaged were you? You consider self-term. How this was how the government specific useful.
All right, y'all, I'm headed to planning. After this, I gotta go to planning now.
Fill my handle.
I'm gonna close out the Zoom, since y'all have the form and everything, okay?
Be, fill my Kindle documents. Knowledge. Or